Welcome back. This is the Poet is a Human with the philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 40, Fight for Healing. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in, and if you like us, consider subscribing to keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
And Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master finances, pursue dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and not financial advice.
Dunamis, what's the word, man?
Hey, it's been a great week. Izzy. I've been very busy, which I think means I haven't really kept up as much with the news. Did see some crazy stories this week, but it's been real busy, but doing well. Very good. How are you doing?
Not bad, man. Not bad. I've definitely had a busy week also, and just getting my ducks in a row. I've had some weights on the shoulders, just some internal imbalances that I've had to overcome, and just had to look in the mirror, man. And good conversations help with that. And I'm looking forward to Lord willing, another day to be able to apply my lesson.
Well, tell us how you're feeling, man. How how have things been weighing on you here lately, man? You know?
As a music artist more than anything, more in that realm. But it's definitely one of those things where I feel like been putting in a lot of work, and the recognition in certain areas aren't as defined as I would like them to be, and just that balance of wanting to force a circle in a square, and instead of just letting it flow and letting it be natural and just letting it become what it is. And I have seen both elements of that through me. I've seen the element of just wanting to force feed my hometown with my music, because I do care about my hometown, and I've always wanted to give back. So this was my token, right? But again, square in a circle,
Hmm.
and just letting things be natural. The right people are seeing me there, and ultimately, this music is it's a healing mechanism for me more than anything, and the rest will follow. So just being more balanced in that, not 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 hard, but you know how the mind is.
Yeah. Well, tonight we're talking about healing, and in particular, I think one of the things that we've all have a little experience, I think, healing from is trauma and things that have happened to us and seem to come back up. It's always seems to come back up at a later time for us to have to process. And what are your thoughts on that, on trauma, and how it affects us, and how is it affecting all of us, you think?
I feel like it affects us every day. I feel like we've definitely been conditioned just over a long span of time, whether it be from just starting with your family to your community to then that expanding. But with that trauma and looking at that, I feel like the core of that is just exploring your personal history and looking within, the elements of where you started from, and then once you get to that, I mean, because I feel like that right there is going to be the root of it. How you grew up, and what you were told, and how you were made to feel uh, by doing certain things. And once you see that, you gotta now understand the emotion itself. And the key, at least to me, the key is to understand the emotions that you felt at that time, but also just understanding the emotion itself, the definition of anger, the definition of happiness, the definition, and so on and so forth. So that way, all of those emotions can just become like this general, like a general term to be put into these scenarios. The emotions don't change, right? The scenario does. So I feel like that's a good way to balance yourself. And I'm still going through this right now, so I feel like I'm talking about this and like healing at the same time as we're talking about this, y'all. So I was talking to Dunamis offline about this. You know, I was like, man, we sound great, don't we? I was 40 episodes deep. We sound great. But you know, we when it comes to these episodes, we're really just we're really doing this week by week, really. And a lot of the things that we're talking about, or the titles are things that that we've gone through, like literally prior.
Hmm.
And here we are talking about it. So yeah, I think that's a big key for me, man. And there's a few other things I could tap on, but I would say that those would be some of my main points that I would hit first.
Yeah, I think that so much of we've also talked about, we're all individual consciousness, and at the same time, so much of what we go through and how we act and react is the result of programming, literally software programming that is a part of us as well. And so much of that programming and the way that we react and feel is the result of those traumas, those things that have happened when we were kids or growing up or throughout life, whatever was significant enough to remember or to bury. And I've had to go through a lot of healing, and I can say on the other side of significant portions of it that I still have a long ways to go. I think, I mean, it's it's not an insignificant thing,
It's
but
almost kind of tough to talk about a little bit.
it is.
Yeah, it's yeah, I feel that, man. And I definitely feel like just if I could say if I could touch just a little bit on just almost being like being close but not being there. That's always been something. That's always been my loop. Just being close but just not being there. And that's been a loop that I've been wanting and like to break for a really long time. Just being close, being right there, having those glimmering moments, and then it stops for whatever reason, or you just stop, or you're just not motivated for whatever reason, and then you like justify why you're not motivated. And I really want to break that cycle of just being close but not being there.
Yeah, I can I can see that. I mine my cycle wasn't i- is definitely different, but in my cases it's oftentimes not even getting started. So, I've always had a lot of success in things in my life where I actually would take the leap and get started. But I do have difficulty finishing things sometimes. But the the things that we go through and the lessons that we learn, these little traumas that I also think about. I was talking with someone here this last week about how the market is a difficult teacher and about the significant sums of money that I've lost in crypto and in other ventures as well throughout my life. But the interesting thing about learning those lessons is you learn what not to do the next time, right? And if you're smart, you sort of adapt and hopefully don't get too afraid of you shouldn't be afraid of investing just because you've lost money investing at some point in time, right? um, that'd be like Thomas Edison not inventing the light bulb because he's afraid because he failed trying to invent the light bulb. So
Right, right. Yeah, it's the writing's on the walls. It's been right in front of us from the beginning of time, and it's just taking that moment to be still, be silent, and see what the writing is on the wall. And we've been conditioned as a society to be afraid of our own thoughts, and if it's not from somebody else, then it's just incorrect nature to believe in yourself. And there's this insecurity culture, I want to call it, just put it on air, that it's just weird to think for yourself. It's weird to not get the information from somewhere else. And not saying that you shouldn't get your information. You should get your information from all places. But what it's turned into is people will get their information from one place, and that is just their source. That is their reference. And if it's not come from that reference specifically, then it's just not right. And we have latched onto those things. But again, that is that type of conditioning over the years where people have pinpointed certain things. And if it's not this dictionary, it's wrong. If it's not this thesaurus, it's wrong. If it's this, if it's not this brand of cottage cheese, it's wrong. So it gets like that. And the beauty of being in America is that we have choices, right? You can anything you could your heart could desire. You could buy it, you could make it, you could sell it. That is the beauty of being an American. A freedom to just be able to do whatever you want. But
Yeah.
it comes with a lot. It comes with a lot. And just being able to one, I mean, even like you said, the investments through money, like through physical currency, and like what is currency, right? What does currency actually mean?
Hmm.
You know, because currency is not just coins and dollars and gold and silver, man. Currency is a flow.
It is. I often like to think about that word currency in terms of its root, of current, of like electricity
Yes.
and flow, just like you're saying. And when I think about money, there's parallels, but currency and money are not necessarily the same thing. And wealth and currency are not the same thing.
Mm.
So there's what's interesting is if you even think about it in terms of wealth, you could think of wealth like a giant battery, and currency could be what you use to discharge that battery, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
it's the difference between the storage of energy, which would be wealth, versus the expenditure and the flow and the transactional nature of money, which would be currency.
Right. Yeah. That's dope, man. And looking at it like a car, looking at it like a body, and looking at what you're feeding your body, your vitamins, the minerals, and how all of those things affect the different functionalities of of how you operate as a matter being. And the car reference too, that wealth, man, dude, you hit the nail right on the head. I don't That's pretty freaking spot on. I love it. I wish I would have said it. Goodness. Shout out to Drew Aces, because I know he's gonna be listening to this one. Go ahead and throw that one on there for that Sunday joint.
Oh,
But that's real, man. That's real. And even like getting more specific with it, now we've got auxiliary batteries. There's not just one battery in a car anymore. On certain ones there are, but now you've got this, and you can even look at that as passive income, depending on how you're putting this all together. But you've got that main battery, you've got that auxiliary battery, and you've got to have all of these elements that keep it charged throughout. That keep the life of that battery, the wealth of that battery, at stable rates, and making sure that everything else is operating as normal, making sure that there's no dead cells, making sure that there's no, bad business moves, right? Making sure that there's no, dead fuses, blown fuses, possible bankruptcy. So when you put all of this together, all of this stuff really conducts itself into one. You can talk about currency in the sense, or wealth in the sense of a tree, right? And if one tree gets infected, then the rest of the roots can be affected as well, and they're not going to be as rich. And then ultimately that affects, us. Goodness gracious!
yeah.
What a loop, buddy.
Oh, yeah. It's here in Texas we deal with oak wilt, and that's exactly how that works. Is you have a beetle that gets into the tree,
Hmm.
and then once the fungus gets down into the roots of the trees, it can pass underground from tree to tree. there's just there's a lot that is always going on, both stuff that we can see and stuff that we can't see. And tonight we're talking about healing, and with with all of that, and we've mentioned a lot about food in the past, and physical nutrition. We've talked about the mental, and how all of that connects together. um, I think that we even did episodes on strength, and talked to a crypto meditator about working out. And I think that, like I said, I still have a long ways to go, and I even feel some of that brain fog almost coming back. I haven't drank my mushroom coffee in the past few days.
Mhm.
And when we talk about healing, we're constantly surrounded with toxins, with stress, with you know um, life's challenges. There's always something that's trying to wear us down. I almost feel like if we're not constantly trying to heal, that, or at least working on our own maintenance, that we're just going to get worse and worse over time.
Yeah, we've got to be committed to our self care practices and whatever that entails. It's different for everybody, whether that's just being, and I think a lot of that, in comparison to everybody, I think it's just establishing a healthy routine. And I think there are some core fundamentals that we can all practice, whether, just like a good workout, good, self care day, whatever that may be. Some people want to get their nails, whatever. It doesn't, whatever makes you happy, and just remembering to put you first, and always remembering that the better you are, the better others are. And it's just that energy does transfer. That's just a very godlike thing to do. And I think we've seen that in all of these religious books, where there have been just people that have been about the peace, and that have been about the love, and have been about just that self-preservation, and just that self-actualization. That's what a lot of these guys practice, and women, and just figures in general. It's so crucial, and man, I agree with you. We have a long way to go, but and I think a lot of that has to do with because we have a lot of life to live, and we've overcome a lot, and it all came within due time. And we talked a little bit offline of, about and you had said something earlier, and it just this made me think of it. But um, I don't see anything as a waste. You know, I think that us again, we had a lot to figure out, and eventually we were gonna get here. Eventually we were gonna get here, and it's a good thing we did. Just it's a good thing we did. Not only just for ourselves, but for others too, because we really do have a message, man. We really do have a message. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I would gamble all of my crypto on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I also like, we had talked offline before, and I agree with the sentiment that you had earlier, was that, we're still figuring this out. What people, if you go back to episode 1 and you were to listen to what we've said from there to now, there's there's been almost a year that's passed, Izzy. It's been,
Mhm.
we're getting there, and 2025 has gone by really fast,
Yeah.
and the stuff that we've learned since we started is significant, and I think we're going to continue to learn every day, and I think we're going to continue to heal and get stronger, and that is something that, people are just going to have to, follow along, because there's still a lot. There are significant things that we have planned, significant things that we haven't talked about, and we won't talk about until they're ready. But there's, yeah, we've got a lot, and this is a really important time, I think, for crypto, probably in the next few months, and it might get real exciting here again. So
Yeah,
stay tuned.
now is a good time to start setting your goals if you haven't already, but really start to iron out your short term, your midterm, your long term goals in general. And I think that it's a really exciting time to be in the crypto space. I think there's some good things coming, and in more ways than one. I think that there's a lot of innovators that are in this space that are really looking to pump a healthy environment, and I would like to include ourselves in that. And there's much more. There's much more. But yeah, we'll make those announcements when it's time. And as far as we go, man, it's really cool to go back on and listen to the older episodes, and even just listen to the projects that we were working on at the time and what we were doing at the time, and how all of that came into fruition. And now that those things are done, now these things are happening. So it's really cool to go back and really be proud of both of us, and even as individuals, because the projects haven't stopped. The episodes haven't stopped. We've been consistent every week with this. It's been one of those things that there's been a lot of inconsistencies in our lives, this past year. But one thing for certain is these episodes every week have been consistent. And dude, that's massive reassurance for me. I don't know how you feel, but I know that's massive reassurance for me.
Yeah, it is. I've told you many times, Izzy, that um, this is very therapeutic for me. Just getting a chance to talk to you. It wouldn't matter to me if we had zero listeners. This is something that this is healing for me, is being able to get on here and you know sort of lay out what's been on my mind and on my heart and all of that. And so um, it's been super, super important for me. And I think it's going to continue to be important for me. And the consistency of it has given me something to look forward to every week. It gives me something to plan for. We run the social media posts, and leading up to the episode, it also, like we've said, it sort of frames our real life. At least for me, it sets sort of what is going on, what I'm thinking about, what I want to talk about. And there's times where we've talked about struggling in our episodes, and I struggled that week. And I don't really mean for my life to completely follow everything we talk about, but you know I will say that my fiance has been healing for me in in the sense that and if this is encouragement for anyone out there who's dating or trying to find somebody out there, I for the first time in, I think, ever, I feel loved, and in a way that's very difficult to describe. And so that this year has been, especially here recently, has been very uplifting for me. It's changed my outlook, and yeah, she makes me feel like a lot of these things that we say that we're gonna do, that we can actually do them. And maybe that's the best gift to get, is that encouragement and that confidence.
Oh yeah, man. That's it. That goes back into community. That episode of Community that we were talking about, to be around people that are strongly encouraging you, and if not on the same path as you, doing something similar. And everyone is. And I want to highlight, what you were saying about your fiance. Um, you know, it's like you're comfortable with being imperfect. You forget about being perfect or wanting to be perfect, and you're being accepted for who you are. And that's a key part of healing right there. It's just that forgetting perfection. Be regular, be who you are, because the right people will see you, and you will shine. You will shine in that area. You will for sure shine, and it'll be so genuine, and it'll be so authentic. It's not going to be forced. It's not going to feel forced, and that imposter syndrome that we all face, it's just going to be very benign. So I'm really glad that you said that, man, because the perfection thing is something that I personally struggle with, and especially with music. I want everything. I want everything to hit right, and of course, you got to make sure your EQs are right where they need to be, so you can get everything up to par. Sending it over to your mastering engineer, and you get caught up in that and the core fundamentals of that sometimes that transfers into your life a little bit. Leaving work at home is a real thing for real. And yes, can I associate and use analogies of how my life can be like an EQ? 1,000%. But am I going to adjust everything, to this and turn it down a few decibels? Like you can't become obsessed with that to the point where you're just obnoxious to yourself. And I've been very obnoxious to myself in that space. So again, knowing yourself before someone's like, yo, bro, you're being obnoxious. Like, I think that's the best thing, for real. Like, I laugh at myself sometimes, and Dunamis and some of the other guys, like, yo, dude, my bad, bro. I'm being really, really obnoxious right now. My bad. I'm gonna shut up. And they're like, nah, dude, you're good. Then some of you guys are like, yeah, you really were. I'm really glad you said it. But it's love at the end of the day, though. But you need those people. You need
Yeah.
those people.
It reminds me of my first boss at my first developer job. He would he would ask me to come into his office and ask me a question, and I would start with the explanation and the details and this is that, and so and he would cut me off and he'd be like, no, I need the Reader's Digest version. Give me the point, and then if I need more details, I'll ask for it. and and what's funny was it hit me, but it helped me realize, like, he doesn't want to know all that crap. He's just looking for, he's looking for the information he's looking for. And one of the things he told me was to be concise. And I've carried that right there, be concise, or tried to, for a lot of my life. Now, I'll say I'm not concise at all on this podcast. We tend to just talk and ramble, and that's okay because that's what we're doing. But it is important when you're trying to get a point across to somebody to think ahead of time about what you're going to say, get those words all lined up nice, and shoot it out there. So,
would you say that that's a quality in yourself that's helped you through the years?
Definitely. If you can come up with a quick, short, having a good vocabulary helps. You have to know a lot of words. Knowing a lot of words allows you to say more precise things quickly, right?
Yeah.
So it's great to be able to communicate well at work, when you're communicating with a boss, but when you're communicating with a spouse or significant other, when you're talking to your kids, anytime you're communicating, it helps to have the right words and to get to the point.
Yeah, definitely, dude. I would definitely agree and say that good quality of mine would be just being articulate and being able to adapt and just really know words and know their meanings. And sometimes that can be to a fault. Again, I can be obnoxious in those conversations where some people may just want them to end, and I'm like, I don't know if we can really end it on that note, but who am I?
It's that's the thing about being yourself too, is, like you said, we attract what what vibrates along the same wavelength as us. So if what you're doing is obnoxious to some people, they'll probably stop hanging around with you, and that sort of solves the problem, right?
Yeah, it does.
I I've that was a big thing that I've learned in the past year, I'll say. And I know we're only in September, so we're not like doing a full retrospective, but I have started thinking about that. And in the past year, I've really started to care a lot less about things that I used to care a lot about. And a lot of that was people pleasing things. A lot of that was what people thought about me and all that kind of stuff. And the the it's an easy thing to say. It's a very difficult thing to do, to actually not care, you know. Um, and there are certain things that you should care about. Like I do care about what my kids think about me. I care about how they view me, and but there are just I was working and stressing myself out too much, trying to do everything for everyone and be somebody that I wasn't. And so a lot of, I think, healing also comes from just learning to say no. You know, you have to learn to say no a lot and care about yourself. Like you said, the self care regimen. And it might sound like I'm being a cold person or I'm giving bad advice, but it's out of strength. It's out of that self care and growing and becoming strong that kindness naturally flows. So you can be kind and you can be philanthropic if you have the means to be able to be philanthropic, right?
Mhm.
So you have to take care of yourself first.
You hit on it, the boundaries, and that's a big key to healing as well, is establishing those boundaries too. Because when you establish those boundaries, you know what can affect you. You know what can hurt you. You know what can, emit an emotional response. And trusting yourself is really big with that as well, because the more you trust yourself, the more that you trust the boundaries that you set for yourself and for others. So, again, that goes back into the knowing yourself portion, and just the boundaries that have been set versus your own, or they're two different things, man. And obviously, like, murder, and I at least I think that there's just some key ones. Like, it's just never. It's just I hate when it gets to that. You know what I mean? I hate when it gets to that. That's all. That's all I'll say about that portion of it.
The non-aggression principle. So this is a concept that in which aggression, defined as initiating or threatening any forceful interference with an individual, their property, or their agreements, is illegitimate and should be prohibited. Um, Basically, this is a libertarian idea, and it it's to summarize it, I would say, because a lot of that on the page didn't make a lot of sense to me at the moment. But basically, the idea is that aggression is bad. So as long as you're not, individuals should be free to do what they want as long as they're not acting threatening or forceful or aggressive towards anyone else or their property, right? I think you could sum up all of the law in that. Don't be a dick.
Right. Yeah. Don't be. It. I agree with you, and I also look at it too as when you look at people, I feel like there should be in some way, and threat is not the right word, but just like when you look at someone, there should be like a level of unpredictability in that space. Just because you don't want to you don't want to come off weak, right? You don't want to come off weak in the sense of like being taken advantage of or being overtaken or just something along
Hmm.
those lines. I think it's important for people to again respect other people's boundaries and not step into that because you just don't know. And I think that when you carry yourself with confidence, like you said, like don't be a jerk, but just carrying yourself with confidence and carrying yourself with a level of like courage of, hey, I'm cool in my space right now. Just don't step over here. Like it's just not. It's not a thing. I don't want to be like that, and we don't want to be in that moment together. That kind of thing. If I could say anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've always felt like conducting myself in a peaceful manner is the way to be. You want to avoid conflict. You want to, you know, all of that. But I'm also somebody who likes to sit in corners and at the back of the room, and I like to know my exits. And I'm also somebody who doesn't like to get into a fight, but that's only because I know the seriousness of what happens when fights start. So um, we don't have to say anything more than that. So
Yeah, 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 we are.
um, that's what happens when I think you grow up and you have kids. People start to understand it's not a fights aren't little playground things. you know, they're serious, and so there's a lot of older guys like me are not gonna get into a fight, and it doesn't mean that we're weak. Doesn't mean that we're not capable of handling a fight. It means that if we start a fight, we're gonna end it, and we don't want to have to do that or go there.
Right, right. It's much more serious because there's much more at stake. And
Mhm.
yeah, dude, I don't have kids, but I have all of my friends and my family, and it doesn't just affect me; it affects everybody around me too. So there's like for that moment to be like, hurrah! And I mean, hey, sometimes if push comes to shove, but I do want to segue real quick, and it might be a bit of a weird segue, but just back into the healing portion of it. Is there a moment in your life where you have felt like you were truly alive?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that I feel truly alive a lot now. There's been periods of time in my life, even years, where I struggled to find that feeling. So if that's something that doesn't happen for you on a regular basis, I would say hang on, because that's I have I experience moments of bliss that I could say not maybe not on a daily basis, but I truly feel alive um, a few times a month.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
like when you're talking about that, staring out at the sunset and like nothing could go wrong and everything is wonderful. Yeah, it happens every once in a while for me.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I feel that. I've been having it a lot more lately. I've definitely been a lot more present these days. And today, I was standing and it was just like under a big umbrella while it was raining. And I just stared out and gazed and was just right there in that moment and listened to the rain as it was hitting the ground. And it was really incredible, man. It was really cool. And I catch myself in a lot of those moments where I'm just staring off into everything. And it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah,
It definitely it grounds me back out. Um, so whenever I feel like I'm losing sight, I just stop. I just stop what I'm doing. Just slow down.
hmm can help to go within. You know,
Mhm.
we were talking before about the within. You know, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is inside you. And that's it's a significant thing to understand that wherever you go, that God is there to help you. And I've recently switched careers. We've talked a little bit about that, and even this job, even the difficulty of this job, the the less pay, the the fact that my back hurts from time to time working this job and all of it, it's all been healing for me. even even the toughness of it, um, because I went, you know, basically a year for the most part unemployed. That was the toughest thing. That was the
Hmm.
toughest thing that I've had to do in a long time. I mean, we went through a lot of my mental my mental health um, fallout through some of those episodes, and and so it's interesting now that we're talking about healing, because that's not too far removed. I mean, we're talking, what was that, like maybe a couple months ago,
Hmm.
and but I just I feel so much better now, and at the same time, it's such a great subject because, um, like we said, we're not done healing. It's not like, and it's not like all of this is like a journey. It's like progress, and even when somebody who needs to lose a lot of weight, somebody who maybe needs to lose 100 pounds, but that person loses their first 20 pounds. Losing that first 20 pounds is a significant thing. It's awesome. And so I'm kind of looking at it that way, in the sense that I've had some significant trauma that I've needed to heal from. And I've also had a lot of bad processed food and things that I've done to my health over the last 40 some years that has contributed to a lot of bad health. So there's a lot of stuff I need to heal from. I also didn't really work out for a good portion of my life. So, there's all of those things kind of add up together, and that's why it's like I'm not healed, but I'm better than I was.
Yeah, a lot better. I'm a lot better. I'm really, really proud. And I can hear it with the music. I can hear just the evolution of these albums and the topic matter, the just the animation with it, the enthusiasm, just the story, and like really believing. And it's 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 dope to sometimes not say a lot, but just know that the words are impactful. And it's like, man, that's why I really enjoy listening to our artists. So I love listening to Hakeem's story, because I was with him, throughout some of it, and like Death Lord, and of course my own, and RC's and Cavelli's, and yeah, man, our stories are just. I feel like they're just one of a kind, and shout out to every artist in the industry, and in this music world, that it's never easy to go out and tell your story, especially the artists out there that aren't just being told to tell a story a certain way, but your own story. Billie Eilish uh, is an incredible artist that I love to look at, because her, being in her apartment and doing her studio there, that's something that I was always able to, because I've always had my studio in my living quarters, and I mean, really, you don't need much. I mean, you just really got to have the willpower to do it, and be willing to invest in the technology side of things that are, you know, really there to help you out in the long run. And it's like, do I spend $24 on this shirt by, you know, somebody I don't really know, or do I invest into this software, or do I take that $24 and buy one of my dude's shirts, or buy some of my dude's crypto, and it's just being able to be aware throughout all of those things, man. And yeah, just really, really, really proud, really, really proud to see how far things have come for all of us. And man, the music reflects that. So it's been really cool to listen to this stuff lately.
That's awesome. Yeah, the music is definitely what I originally sort of drew me into the Cardano communities. I know that Cardano as tech, brought me onto the blockchain, but it was Jimmy and Six City that got me really excited about what could happen with communities in Cardano. So
hmm
how how do you think, this is maybe a bigger question, but music and blockchain and Cardano, how do you see that evolving, going forward, considering what has sort of already happened, but what's possible, and maybe what it could look like, a few years from now if people were to come back into the crypto space?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more transparency in what we're doing. I think there's going to be a better narrative that's going to be able to get pushed, and you're going to see more of the longevity projects versus the ones that are just these overnights and then they just disappear. There's going to be a lot more confidence, and artists, independent artists especially, are going to see platforms where they're able to do a lot of these things on their own and push it the way that they want to push it. Right now, what I see is a level of exclusivity, but the exclusivity doesn't come from a place where we're not allowing people to get in. It's just that people don't really understand what this crypto is all about, and they think it's a foreign language. But in reality, especially with music, it's really the same language, as if you were putting your music out on a digital streaming platform such as Spotify or Apple Music. Now you have an opportunity to come over here in crypto world and you can mint your project. And it's, once you understand some of the terminology of what that means, you'll really see how truly easy it is. And shout out to pseudoscientists and Art Radio who have made that just a awesome access point for independent artists such as myself, and labels too, independent labels, for them to put their artists out on another platform that gives them an opportunity to scale and grow and see some revenue. Um, Crypto to me, and you and I have talked about this, and you've definitely put a lot of knowledge in me. This isn't a quick game, and I don't think it was ever meant to be a quick game. I think people have found ways to finesse the system to make it a quick gain for them, but it was never about that. It was never about that at all. It was really about uh, decentralization and giving the people sovereignty to be able to govern the way that they wanted to govern. And to me, it's always been deeper than any token and any meme that you could sell me. This is about freedom more than anything, and it's always been about that for me. Always, it's just there's just certain things that don't change with that. So I just want artists to continue to do their homework, and if you have questions, uh, I mean, there's so many different forums, and please feel free to reach out to myself, Dunamis, and Solidity Records, Samuel Hogan. I mean, there's a lot of us here in this community that we just want to help people and we want to educate people.
Absolutely, yeah. The ARP Radio Mentor thing is really cool. I think that's an awesome contribution that has been put out there, and I think in the future also what we'll probably see more of, and I know that people are going to come back into the space. I mean, like we've said, that the tech works, all the technology works there. It's the issues have been with rugging projects is really what the issue is. But where we were in it for the music, um, there's always been utility there. There's always been value there, and I do see at some point in the future there being some level of exclusivity, like a ticket or something like that, where you buy an NFT, you get access to either, you know, some sort of a club or some sort of a again, to even just get a ticket to a live show. I mean, there's so many different uses for the technology, and I'm talking about NFTs here, and specifically versus your vanilla crypto. I know I'm probably confusing the one or two boomers out there that listen to the program, um, but with the NFT technology, I mean, you're basically just able to mint something that is digital, that is scarce, and what some people took it for was if I buy this thing, it will go up in price. And NFTs are never. I don't think that's what they're for. I do think some of those early NFT projects will probably still have value down the road because they're early on chain. But going forward, the exciting thing about NFTs is that exclusivity. It's like a membership. I can buy this thing, and if I'll just throw out, like Costco or something like that. If Costco were to mint NFTs and send them out to people, and the NFT gave you 10% off everything in your shopping cart at Costco, that is what that NFT would be worth. It wouldn't be
Right.
worth it because it's an NFT and because it's on chain. It would be worth it because of the issuer. The issuer gave it some value in some club setting, and I really think that that's going to be a big usage of the technology going forward. I think it's going to be kind of exciting to see. I think this bull run, or if not this one, then the next one. I think you're going to start seeing more adoption of companies even having their own tokens, their own chains, side chains, and things like that. So crypto is not going away. That's for certain. For people that are not familiar with it and wanting to know how to heal their investment strategy, I would say the best rule of thumb is to stick with Bitcoin. If you don't know anything about crypto, stick with Bitcoin. If you know a little bit about crypto and you're delving into other altcoins, Cardano is a very good proof of stake blockchain to become aware of. But I'm not going to say go out and buy ADA because that's up to you. We don't make financial decisions for any of you. So
Man, you dropped a lot of gems right there, and I really want to, say or touch on what you were saying about just the whole, just the principle of Cardano and crypto and ADA and all of this. Like, we're building, man. We're building. This isn't a get rich quick thing. It really isn't. And honestly, a lot of the better projects aren't. And even with the art side of it, the NFTs, what makes those exclusive, like you said earlier, is that those aren't anywhere else. You own that. These are collector's items. It's like a piece of art or a vinyl or that one of one Pokemon card. That's what that's all about. So if you're into fine collections and things of that nature, this is that space. And yeah, could those things be worth something down the road? For sure. But are you just grabbing it for that, or are you really digging that artist? Are you like, dude, you don't have this. You don't have this. Like, what? No, you really don't. It's not anywhere. You really, yeah, dude. I'll give you 500 ADA for that right now. It could be something like that, but that's y'all. And I think there's something to be said with that. Me as an artist, I've always wanted to be a household name. I always wanted to, as a human, to just be a little bit of everything, whether it be French cafe jazz fusion music to a little bit of uh, hybrid rock and or hip hop or new age or whatever it is. But just it's a human song for every occasion is what I've always wanted. Always just to always wanted to just be like Seasons, man. And of course, I want this podcast to age like fine wine, which I think we're doing a really good job. This is a fine glass of Montepulciano we got right here.
Yeah.
But I digress with that, man. And I think that this has been really good, and I think that we've touched on a lot of different elements of healing, and what it means, and ultimately all of it starts with yourself, man. And I'm a firm believer that everything else follows once you really develop your own identity of who you are.
Hmm. Definitely. And yeah, it's great, and it reminds me about how healing music is. Again, the fact that that you're involved in music, that's a high calling, man. And I think that's we're kind of at the end of it, but I'd say if you made it to the end of this episode, let's say they drop a heart emoji down in the comments.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Drop them.
Awesome. And let's do this again next week, man. This has been really good, and we made it to episode 40, so we've got 40 in the tank. And
yeah, let's keep going, man. Never give up the fight, y'all.
Never give up the fight.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test, expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain that's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession, all in his possession. You got their attention, I'll leave an impression and take a redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression, You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep, move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep, move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change, you can say no, free me.